others. Omega's on. Excellent. Welcome to Occam's Razor. My name is Jill, and this is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read through of the best news aggregate for an unobscured eye on current events. I'd like to thank BCF for posting these live streams and for his tireless commitment to publishing his site every day, coming up on 20 years in February. So please support his site. We're streaming on 3 platforms, or are we? Let me check. We're having some issues with X. And are we on? No, we are not streaming on X. It'll be the last Friday when we're not streaming on X. Had a separate stream key set up specifically for Blazing Cat Fur, and apparently it just doesn't work. So we will be using the other stream key that I use for the nap. Please join us there on the show at 10:30 after this show, which was only run for half an hour. Now we're streaming on only 2 platforms, YouTube and Rumble. So please give us a like, thumbs up, follow, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. The chat is up on the 2 platforms, so please feel free to ask us anything. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my algorithm. This veteran appreciates your support, so please visit my channels. And don't forget to support Blazing Cat Fur. And let's go straight to the show. There we go. First off, here's our YouTube channel. Here's our Rumble channel. And here's Blazing Cat Fur. So let's do a quick refresh, because I have not seen this site for the last 24 hours. I do this on purpose so that it is a cold read-through. Excellent. Nice to see BCF has our site up. All right. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Jake Tapper refers to alleged pipe bomber as a white man. Oh? Oh, okay. Well, let's see what he says.
White man from the D.C. suburbs is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
That was the end of it. Just a very short. All right. Well, Jonathan K., the CBC, folks, the CBC. Pantone's 2026 color of the year is white. Some critics say the optics aren't great. Let me see now. If I remember from my art class when I was in high school, I'm pretty sure they told me that white is the complete absence of all colors, and black is the inclusion of all colors when you look at the color scale. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Nations pull out of Eurovision after Israel allowed to compete. Wow. We can see that anti-Semitism has reared its ugly head internationally again. Well, it's not a big surprise when you think that there's a 50+ block of Islamic states within the United Nations that continually push anti-Semitic propaganda every single day. Spain, Ireland, Slovenia, and the Netherlands will boycott next year's Eurovision Song Contest after public broadcasters decided to let Israel compete. Oh, 3 countries. I don't know about Slovenia, but I know that those 3 countries have been having some immigration inundations from countries that don't like Jews. The song contest has now been thrown into chaos, with other countries expected to follow suit. Yeah, so sad when the politics of hate takes over everything. Iceland has also threatened to pull out of the competition before a church meeting in Geneva on Thursday, while there were reports Belgium, Finland were mulling similar moves. Competing broadcasters have until December to confirm their participation. What will Canada do if it is granted a slot? Yes, that's right, because Carney just wants to drag us into Europe, even though we've been separated by them by a huge pond for generations, for hundreds of years. Well, not hundreds of years as Canada, obviously, because we've only been around since 1867. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, here's Blazing Cat for himself, reposting the horror from Radio Genoa. Aisha was 9 is the slogan that appeared on a mosque in Ottawa, Canada. Ooh. Yes, well, we can see why that would upset certain people. If you're not familiar with your religious text in Islam, then you would not understand what this means. Lovely. What Carney should pitch Trump in D.C. to restart trade talks? Yes, that's right. Because apparently Carney has not been doing anything to restart trade talks because then they wouldn't have a talking point during question period where we covered this on the no answer period, the nap. It's a repeated tactic by the liberals within parliament to continually refer to this as a trade war. They have to, because without a war, without a crisis, they don't have the ability to manage it. They don't have something to point to for their poor economic policies, their disastrous economic policies, because now they can continue to blame Trump. They can continue to blame MAGA. If you've been watching mainstream media, our quality Canadian journalism organization controlled media, they in turn continually refer to MAGA this, MAGA that. They have to keep the hate going within the public sphere so that they have something to fall back onto for all their bad policies. Now, of course, Carney has the opportunity to actually meet with Trump at this FIFA thing because obviously they've done nothing to try to regain our trade with our largest natural trading partner. We have the longest undefended border on the planet. Well, we used to. We'll see how this is foxtrotted up after the Liberals are done with Canada, especially the way they've been allowing cartels and everything just to filter across this undefended border that we've just let go to shit under the Liberals. Well, anyway, they, they haven't done anything for the trade, nothing whatsoever. Why not? Because Carney needs to go to his European friends and he needs to go all over the planet to get people to invest in his de-risking fund that he's robbed all your pensions for to set up, which will probably run its course in about 2 to 3 years, then run out of money, and then you'll all be broke. Mark Carney heads to Washington, but not the White House on Friday, yet he should use his brief encounter with Donald Trump to put trade on the table. Yeah, he should. Carney will be attending the World Cup draw that determines which countries play in which cities in next year's tournament. Given the food lineups at the food banks and the amount of tent cities and how they keep increasing in Canada, I don't know how you're going to really bring up a lot of enthusiasm for football in Canada or soccer. Bavaria reports surge in far left attacks. Well, anybody who watches the news and reads social media understands that the far left have been surging their attacks for years. This is how Marxism spreads. This is how cultural Marxism spreads, right? I've talked about this on my other show. In order to achieve their goals, they have to be able to legally or acceptably use violence, which is why they continually push this fake narrative that words are violence. If you say something that upsets them, well, that's violence to them. So that allows them to actually do physical violence in retaliation. That's how their broken brains work. Left-wing extremists are behind nearly all recent attacks on infrastructure and businesses in Bavaria. Newly released state data shows figures provided to lawmakers link far-left actors to 243 of 263 infrastructure attacks and 447 of the 465 offenses against economy between 2019 and 2024. Annual figures show a sharp increase in attacks. 34 cases in 2019 surged to 190 incidences in 2023, with 125 direct linked to left wing extremism. Arson and explosive offenses also surged, with 27 incidences in 2023, including 16 targeted infrastructure. Property damage remains the most common offense, with 242 left-wing motivated cases targeting infrastructure and commercial sectors alike. No wonder the Americans have said that Antifa is a terrorist organization. We await this in Canada as well, but it's kind of hard to do when you actually have some of your government workers that are actually proudly part of Antifa, like maybe that guy that used a smoke grenade at a pastor's church in Montreal. So it's kind of weird. You know, everything, like I've said, there's this fire hose of chaos and ethics breaches and foxtrottery going on within the government every single day, so that you cannot keep up. And it's on purpose. It's on purpose. You cause so much chaos, you just can't keep track of all of it. And you can't stop it. You can't say anything. While you're keeping track of one, another lane starts. Another fire. Never bloody stops. Jolie says feds will serve Stellantis with notice of default on funding contracts and vigorously wag finger in their general direction. She does. That's an excellent title, Blazing Cat. For she does wag her finger all the time in Parliament. Let me tell you this, Mr. Speaker. Let me tell you this. And she's snapping and the pointing and she's like very animated. But that's about it. She says a lot, but gets nothing accomplished. Now, meanwhile, apparently this contract that they had with Stellantis, the bureaucrats said that, oh no, we needed to redact all this because they said we had to. And now, of course, they just spoke to Stellantis. They had them in committee. And the committee has told them, well, no, we never told them anything. They just approached us and said, hey, because of your, sensitive stuff, these are the redactions we've done. Are you happy with it? Which is a complete different story. So as a result, now this is an issue of privilege, which means that they lied and they want the truth and they need to answer for it. So the chair of the committee has said, well, you know what? Let's give them a chance to answer. Maybe they were misled for some reason, right? Well, he didn't say that. But, anyways, he's giving them the opportunity to come back into committee and say their part and see whether or not they've been trying to hide this. Now, of course, we know from other committee meetings that she didn't read the contract. In fact, it doesn't seem that like anybody in the government read the entire contract. It was compartmentalized. You having different departments reading certain parts, but nobody actually read the entire thing. And of course, they asked Stellantis, "Have you guys read the whole contract? How many people? Just a ballpark number." And so the person they were talking to said, "Well, yeah, I did it." And so she said, like a handful, maybe about five, actually read the entire thing, and then acknowledge, yeah, we have different departments that concentrate in those areas, but yes, of course, it's a multi-billion-dollar contract, $15 billion. You think somebody would take time to go through all of it? Any independent business would do this, but no, no, not the government. Oh no, she could serve them notice all she wants, but I don't think Stellantis is too worried about it because they actually read the contract, right? And they did not. That's who's running the country. Federal government is escalating its fight with automotive giant Stellantis over the company's decision to move some production to the U.S. despite receiving hundreds of millions of dollars in Canadian taxpayer incentives in recent years. Industry Minister Melanie Joly said Thursday that the department will serve Stellantis with a notice of default under the funding contracts related to protect in both Windsor and Brampton, Ontario. Now, I don't think Stellantis much cares what Ms. Joly thinks, writes Blazing Cat for here. Here we have a rapid response 47 post on X saying Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa, it's a great day for us because it's a day where we see CAFE regulations reconcile with real customers' demands. That's why at Stellantis we decided to invest $13 billion in the next 4 years because we believe is what you, Secretary Duffy, and all of your blah, 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 blah. So, yeah. So we gave them 13 billion and they went around, turned it and invested in the United States. Looks like. Allegedly. Looks like that at all, right? And then, of course, we have this. Today, my administration is taking historic action to lower costs of American consumers, protect American auto jobs, and make buying a car much more affordable. We officially terminated Joe Biden's ridiculous, burdensome CAFE standards. What we've said all along is that your green mandated BS in Canada would not only shut down industry, but drive consumers away because there's no consumer demand. This is not a safety thing like instituting safety belts in vehicles, right? And even then, they never said that it had to be a certain something. They just said, you need to restrain the passengers, and it was for obvious safety reason. But this whole push for green technology, why is that? I wonder. Hmm. Who's heavily invested in that? I wonder. Hmm. Hmm. Yes, okay. So enough for a dozen eggs, senators say Carney's tax cut gives working poor just $11 a month. Enough for a dozen eggs. A dozen eggs costs $11 in the United States. Have they been culling that many chickens that it's costing that much? I can't see it's $11 for a dozen eggs in the United States. It's not even $11 for a flat of 2.5 dozen in Canada. Federal income tax cut pitched by Prime Minister Mark Carney as a major affordability measure will save low-income Canadians roughly $11 a year. Senators heard this week, despite measuring. So, okay, so it's a Canadian story here. Well, I still had the U.S. on the brain, but even then, $11 is Where, okay, obviously politicians don't do their own bloody groceries. I mean, okay, you could shop around and find a decent dozen eggs for cheaper than that, but I guess if you're buying highest quality omega-3 eggs, maybe it's $11 a dozen. I don't know. I can't afford that myself. A lie of third world assimilation is finally dead. Yes, that's right. We've been trying to warn you all along. There's no such thing as magic dirt, right? Just because somebody shows up in your country and puts their foot on the ground doesn't actually immediately imbue them with all your values, morals, and beliefs. They come there with all their own baggage, literally and figuratively and mentally. And if you want them to integrate into your society, you have to have a plan for that. You can't just say, oh, diversity is our strength, and then not integrate them, because then without borders, language, and culture, you don't have a country, right? So if you don't integrate them with your language and your culture, ta-da, your country is dead. Recently, the Trump administration announced that it had not only paused processing all immigration applications from Afghanistan, but also halted immigration applications of people from 19 countries subject to travel restrictions earlier this year. Officials are also seeking to remove legal immigrants who were born in countries the White House deemed high risk. Hmm, well, that'll be interesting to see what they're doing there. Obviously, it's going to flag people. If you're a legal migrant from Iran, right? And then they check into you and they're like, oh, this poor Christian, he fled from them. He's probably a safe guy. Cancel net zero. Wind turbines cause ocean heating. Of course they do. Yeah, well, you got this spinning thing and you got a lot of friction there, and you're creating um, an electrical field just by rotating this. So obviously, if you got an electrical field, it's an energy field, and yeah, and of course they're very known to create a lot of vibrations that are uh, deadly and dangerous to aquatic life. Creatures that depend on sonar and get screwed up from all these vibrations. And then, of course, when you put them out in the ocean like that, yeah, they're an issue for ships going along. Weather's really bad out there. How do you maintain these things out there? You got a big gale storm, you can't go up there and fix that, climb up that tower. And of course, to maintain these things, well, yeah, you need a special ship to go over. And but I guess it's a lot easier to get rid of them, eh? Just cut them down, let them fall into the ocean, let them rust away. Then again, the blades are not made of stuff that's just going to disintegrate. They're highly toxic. They have no way to dispose of this stuff. Your correspondence work is done. Offshore wind farms cause ocean heating, with localized surface sea temperatures rising by a persistent zero point 0.3 degrees Celsius to zero point 0.4 degrees Celsius, and international interannual variability up to 1 degree Celsius. This, according to groundbreaking calculations made by a group of American scientists and recently published by Science. Cascading effects ripple through ecosystems, not only affecting sea and atmospheric temperatures, but reshape the upper ocean by destabilizing marine food supplies and affecting plankton and larval growth. Disruption of the Mid-Atlantic cold pool, a key subsurface water mass supporting the regional fisheries and ecosystems, can be affected. So no more ghastly and inefficient wind turbines then. If similar fears arose about hydrocarbon extraction, the operation would be shut down quicker than you could say Christopher Gary Beckham. Well, there you have it, eh? All the green meanies, everything's coming to crash down. Hey, even here in Canada, all the green meanies are eating each other during question period. It's beautiful. Because the Bloc Québécois, unless you didn't know about it, are full of fanatical green meanies. They're just as bad. It's like a whole bunch of Hans Grubers of climate change, is what we call Stéphane Guilbeault. Imagine Stéphane Guilbeault and then multiply him as all Bloc Québécois when it comes to how they deal with climate change. They're just as fanatical about it. It's just crazy. From exception to routine, why Canada's state-assisted suicide regime demands a human rights review. Yes, well, I covered this on my other show quite a bit. It's rather disturbing that we have a medical assistance in dying program that has now killed over 90,000 people in Canada. And it's gotten to a point now where I believe the next legislation piece that they're putting in is that you have to agree to hand over all your organs after they kill you, so that, they can recycle you. Because you are the carbon they want to get rid of, by the way. Ottawa, Canada's state-assisted suicide program called MAID was sold by the Liberal government as stringently limited, carefully monitored system, a rare option of last resort for people at the very end of life. Yeah, at the very end of life, which is why Veterans Affairs and whoever else is taking care of the medical stuff for the RCMP has now been offering MAID to people. Oh, you're feeling a little down, you feel a little bad. Yeah, let's give you some MAID. Of course, the Liberals don't like this at all. Last week, the week before, um, MP from the Pembroke area, Cheryl Gallant, put into the Hansard while she was reading, basically, that she's been contacted by at least one person saying that she couldn't wait for May to be available for her, the senior, because they couldn't take it anymore. They can't afford the rent, can't afford the food, can't afford to live in this liberal economy that's destroyed Canada. They've had enough. And of course, the Liberals took exception to this. The House Leader, McKinnon, he said, "Oh, they said something that should not be answered. She should retract these comments." And then, of course, Charles Gallant goes, "No, this is what's happening, and you people are causing it." So, well, it's not her words. You'd have to go back and answer. Of course, we did a show on this before, but there it is, right? It's becoming part of the society. That's why it's not Health Canada anymore. It's called Death Canada. And we are run by a death cult in Canada. We saw this with the ostrich cult. They send out their RCMP Gestapo, fall crazy, kill crazy, CFIA. Anyways, we are digressing. Canada's state-assisted suicide program, Call Made, was sold by the Liberal government as stringently limited. Well, new data from Health Canada showed in 2024 that 16,499 Canadians died by MAID, 5.1% of all deaths in the country. Yeah, they left out that the cumulative, since they brought in the program, now is like over 90,000, 96,000. Does it not follow logically that these data, wrote that, from Ottawa's original framework has, cloaked in the rhetoric of progressively humane ideals, insidiously crept into something far more sinister than what the Supreme Court justices in their wisdom affirmed in a society-altering charter rights ruling in 2015? I would say so. I would say so, especially when you look at a lot of the policies by the Liberal government. They all seem to have a national socialistic fervor to them. Confiscate guns, get rid of useless eaters by offering to kill them, right? And then, of course, harvest their organs, and then bring in legislation through several bills at all different levels to bring in authoritarian, totalitarian restrictions on free speech for your safety. Something else the funny mustache men led people of the 1930s in Germany always used to say to other people whenever they used, "Hey, what are you doing over there? Hey, back in your office, it's for your safety." Yeah, it's always for your safety when it comes to the government. Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo's Bloodfest is a sorrowful sight. Oh, well, I'm glad I've been spared that story because I know nothing about it, and it looks horrible. There is nothing brave or boundary breaking about the wicked, for good stars relentless emoting. Laurel and Hardy, Morecambe and Wise, many showbiz double acts have been extremely fond of each other to the extent that, like these pairs, they would often be shown on screen sharing a bed. But surely no showbiz duo has ever demonstrated as much mutual tendress as Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, the stars of Wicked film franchise, and that's why I have not been paying attention to this because it's Wicked. Another satire of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo that isn't far from the truth. Oh, what is this? Is this going to play?
Kidneys. I would give her both my kidneys.
What was your favorite part?
Do not talk to her.
I have an eyelash in my eye.
No. Cut the cameras. Cut the cameras. What's going on, darling?
It's just an eyelash.
Darling. Oh my god, eyelash.
Yeah, that's enough of that. I don't see why that's entertaining at all. Cynthia Enviro and Ariana Grande before versus after Wicked. That can happen to them. Okay. All right, so there's just that horrible music there. And, what are we getting to? Yeah, what's going on there? What is going on? They used to have meat on their bones. Now they're all Skeletor-like. Well, I guess it's good to know they're not robots. All right, Iranian matchmaking platform lets parents sign up girls as young as 13 for marriage. Ah, well, society's kind of moved on from the need to marry women off very young because of the way childbearing took a toll on humanity, which is why people need to have so many kids. Um, Even my grandparents were all part of very large families. Well, on my mother's side, anyway, talking about like 13, 14 kids, right? Because and of course some of them die along the way. But this whole thing about marrying off. Depending on your society. But now, of course, we know if this is Iranian matchmaking platform, let's remember this is in respect to Sharia law. 13-year-old girl in Islamic Republic of Iran is getting a bit long in the tooth for getting married. And now there is an app for that. Iran International report last Sunday that an investigation by the reformist Daily Shard found that a licensed Iranian matchmaking platform lets parents sign up children as young as 13 for marriage with no age filters. Wow. Or meaningful safeguards in place. Those who are familiar with the life of Muhammad as he is depicted in traditional Islamic sources and with Islamic law will find it odd that a matchmaking site sets the age that high. Indeed. Oh, here's one of our posts. Thank you so much, Blazing Cat. Conservative Member of Parliament John Brassard states the obvious, pointing to the Brookfield elephant in the room. No one should be naive in thinking that Carney left a $1 trillion company making millions of dollars in both salary and deferred compensation for some virtuous reason to make 400 grand as the Prime Minister to save us from ourselves. Very good. Yes, that's a good little video. And we're almost at the end of the show. If you guys are going to watch it, please go to my channel. It's right there. Or, of course, you can just click and watch it right there on BCF site. Thank you so much. Jamie Sarkonic, Alberta's gun grab resistance is part of a bigger Canadian tradition. Yeah, what Canadian tradition is that? The liberal Canadian tradition of wanting to be the natural ruling party and doing anything and everything to achieve it. If that includes having to confiscate weapons so that when you bring in your authoritarian, totalitarian regime that comes knocking on your door to take you away for jail for the rest of your life for something that you said that might have harmed somebody's feelings online. Maybe that's why. Is this the type of gun grab history that we have in Canada? Let's see. Once upon a time, there was a provincial justice minister who abhorred a new, far more expensive than originally quoted federal gun program that infringed upon the lives of private citizens. So he decided not to enforce any of it. I'm not referring to Alberta Justice Minister Mickey Amery or his move against federal gun seizures on Wednesday, which signaled to all provincial entities that they should not participate in the buyback program. This is about a group of justice ministers in the early 2000s who refused to play ball when it came to the federal long gun registry. Yes, and subsequent to that long gun registry, the RCMP went and abused that, right? Because they were told to destroy that list afterwards. They didn't. Then there was the Red River flood. And during the Red River flood, RCMP were going around from house to house. They had a list who had weapons, who were doing B&E, breaking and enter into some of these houses and looking for the weapons. Right. So we know where this goes. Enough is enough. These are tools. We have farmers, we have hunters who need these, and we have sports shooters. Legal gun owners are not the problem. Never have been. Seems the problem's always been the Liberal government. Well, thank you all for coming out to Blazing Cat for Fridays for a cold read through, and we will leave you now with the same intro as the outro. Please visit our site. Come back next week, next Friday for Blazing Cat for Fridays. And if you have some time, please feel free to come and join us on the nap at 10:30, where we will cover The question period prefaced by review of the far left evil that has beset our land. And we have a bit of a show set up. And of course, question period is always a bit of a tight show. And it's Friday. It's Friday, so the question period will be very sparse. As you know, most of the politicians are not from Ottawa, so they travel on the weekend to go back to their ridings. So the House on Friday is rather empty. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting again today because every day is a new day in Parliament, and I'm for sure the Liberals will always have their same talking points, and the Conservatives and the other opposition will continue to hammer the Liberals because they deserve it. After 10 years of financial and economic misery and a $1 trillion debt with nothing to show for it? Oh, yeah, baby. I'll see you next week. Thanks for coming out. Bye bye.